It's almost 150 years old. It was built the same year that Abraham Lincoln was elected president, which is an amazing 7 years before Canada was Confederation. There was still slavery in the United States and in Russia when this wall was built. If you can imagine that. So, which thankfully we can't anymore. So it just gives you an idea of how incredibly old it is, and the patients who built it were built it in 1860 at the time of, as I said, 10 years after the wall, the asylum originally opened, and it encompassed the entire original property. But this is the last part, along with another part we'll see down further on the west side of the old wall. And it gives you a good idea of how old this history is and how much we need to respect it. And so Mark and Rosalind were talking about the escapes people made. And so just gives you an idea. See, here's how people could put their feet up here, and you can put them up and go over the wall. That's right. Very much so. Very much how people would escape. So that's a very important point. And who do you think was more likely to escape than anybody else?
Men, if they worked outside.
Yes, that's right. Men were able to escape more than women because men had the freedom to work outside more. Freedom, when I put that in relative terms, because they, of course, were surveilled all the time as well. Men were given more jobs outside, and women worked almost exclusively inside, and so men were much more likely to be in a position to escape. Women also were constrained for one other reason, that is because they had heavy dresses, so it was much harder to escape. But some people actually did escape, and it's very important to emphasize that. There have been a number of patients who escaped. One woman who was confined here in 1880 escaped a year later, and she made her way, I don't know how she escaped, but she made her way behind these walls, and it was very important to make your way behind the walls because there was train tracks over there. And so a lot of people escaped through on the train tracks, and she took the train all the way to Hamilton. But she was arrested there, brought back, and here she stayed until her death just over 50 years later. She was confined here for what we now call puerperal insanity, or what was then called postpartum, or what was then called puerperal insanity, what was now called postpartum depression. So it gives you an idea how long people could be confined here, very, very long periods of time. But it's also important, if we look over to this section here, Rosalind was asked